Well, happy July, everybody. I want to do a wrap up of the books I read in June of 2026. I read three books this month. I guess last month now. This is July 2nd. Um, I went on vacation. I took a pretty chill approach to reading. I don't know how some of you guys read so many books in a month. I have I have other hobbies I want to do, but I had some really good stuff I read this month. First thing that I finished this month was Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. I had read Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang in the fall, which was Kylie Lee Baker's novel she put out before this. This one I this came out this year, and I've been really reticent to read this because the title is just felt so generic. And after reading the book, I can kind of understand why it's named this. I still think that there would be something better to call it. What I don't know, but I was just uninspired by the title of this. But I was looking for something to read, and this had come out, and I thought, I really loved Bat Eater, and so I want to give this another shot. This is a story that is doing dual points of view. It goes between a girl who's being trained to be a samurai by her father in the late 19th century in Japan, and a young adult guy, I guess he's 19 or 20, in modern day 2026 Japan, who is fleeing a murder. He murdered his college roommate, and he has left to escape the consequences from that and live with his father in Japan. And so it's going back and forth between these two storylines, and they find I guess, a door that opens at certain times that they're able to communicate through to each other. They can go into each other's worlds, and so they kind of make a deal to help each other out. I guess without getting into too many spoilers, that's what they do. So Japanese Gothic, this title, this is a horror novel, but in the sense of it's a Gothic horror novel. There is, I think, after reading Cora Zhang, Bat Eater, and other names for Cora Zhang, Kylie Lee Baker does wrote a lot of gore into that, and there's plenty of it in here. There's some just like I guess really just gross imagery, but at the core of this setting plays a key role in this narrative. It is it's I hate it when people say, "Oh, the setting is kind of a character," but it does. This certain house and its surroundings do play a major factor into everything. It's very it's called a samurai house. It's the same house that Sin, the samurai girl, lived in during her life. And it has a detail that I really love that they brought up at the very beginning. It has really low ceilings, and something they mention is that the ceilings are low, so you're not able to draw your sword while you're standing. You have to accommodate for you have to they kneel when they draw their sword, so it helps to fend off attacks. So setting pops up a lot in this story, which is typical of Gothic fiction. It's a ghost story. I think. Let me look at the front of this jacket. At the bottom, it said the bottom of the dust jacket. One of these people is a ghost, and one of these stories is a lie. Something is hiding beneath the house of the sword ferns, and Lee and Sin will soon wish they'd never unburied it. So the supernatural is very brooding, and it's not like jump scare material. It is stuff that it develops through mood and setting and through just what's going on and just trying to figure out. Lee is in the future, and the assumption is that Sin is dead. Obviously, it's he's over a century century and a half in the future, so she must be dead. So let's figure out how you died. Um, I really liked it. I really liked it. I would actually, I would actually say I liked it more than Bat Eater, and that's it's so interesting to me because I really was turned off by the name of that book. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like it was such a generic title. But it's a Japanese gothic story, ghost story. Okay, the second book I read was Tusk of Extinction by Ray Naylor. I actually borrowed this from the library, so I don't have the actual book because I gave it back, but I do have this. Now, it is a novella uh, by Ray Naylor. I read and have The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naylor, which was a novel he wrote. Um, and The Mountain and the Sea is awesome. It's the sea is being the ocean is being scavenged for food by people, and the octopi are developing language and passing it down. It's really cool, and so it follows someone. It has several narratives, but the main narrative is um, a woman who's a linguist who's trying to figure out, try to communicate with these. Are they? I think they're octopi. Maybe they're squid, but I think they're octopi. Um, so I really like that book. It has a very um, environmental, like, think about what we're doing to the environment theme to it, and you see that same thing in Tusk of Extinction. Tusk of Extinction is a super quick book. I think the copy I had was about 100 pages, so it's a novella, um, and it's going into the same environmental territory that Naylor did in The Mountain and the Sea. So it's a science fiction book. We have a woman who was trying to stop poachers to help wild elephants continue to propagate. And we have kind of her narrative going on in the past, and in the present, we have a scientist who's brought back mastodons. We find out that wild elephants are extinct. All we have are captive elephants, and they've brought back mastodons, and they're able to keep them safe by having them in a certain plateau in, I believe, Russia, the high northern region. But the mastodons don't have any um, knowledge that can be passed down to them. So they find a way to insert a personality into a mastodon that can help teach them what a wild elephant would be like, and the closest thing they could have to a wild elephant or to a wild mastodon would be a wild elephant. However, wild elephants are extinct. There are none. So I think it's a really cool way that they did this. Very um, uh, I feel like very cyberpunk. You have poachers in this novel that are trying to get the mastodon tusks. You have very Jurassic Park like vibes. We've played God, and now we have to find a way to fund this. So we are taking someone on a safari to kill one of these mastodons for basically the price of the GDP of a small country. So really cool novella, really quick read. I think it probably took me 2 evenings of just sitting down and reading it. And it was done. You could read it in one sitting if you were really dedicated. I just didn't have a block to get through it. I'm a really slow reader. I've been working on getting faster. I do the little speed reading technique where you use like a stylus or your finger, um, but that is really not enjoyable for me in fiction a lot of time. In nonfiction and stuff like that, I can usually get through it. If I'm really, really amped, I can read a fiction book like that and enjoy it. But usually, I want to take my time and enjoy the story. I'm reading for pleasure. And the last book that I read, I finished this. in the last couple days was Angel Down by Daniel Kraus. This is the Pulitzer Prize for literature in 2026, I think. Um, this book is great. I think the way I described it is um, Saving Private Ryan in World War One, and you kind of have these five reject doughboys who go to find this. They're calling the Shrieker. There's someone out in no man's land that's screaming, and the general's like, "We're pulling back, but you guys need to go out there because we don't leave any man behind." And it's really just kind of a way to get rid of these five kind of screw ups that he doesn't want in his army anymore. And when they get out there, they don't find a soldier. They find an angel that's been presumably shot down by like mortar fire, and they're trying to figure out what to do with her. For some reason, she doesn't speak. She doesn't walk. Um, I've seen several people describe this as a horror novel. Now, this is very, um, I guess, bloody. There's there's body part soup all the time. Um, there's just all this horror of war that's going on around, and so I could see that. I also kind of see a trope. Um, so I really I don't like horror movies. Um, and I thought that maybe I wouldn't like horror fiction. I've read some, like I've read The Shining, I've read some H.P. Lovecraft stuff like that. But I just kind of stumbled into reading horror fiction. In my last month, I talked about reading Hyde by Kirsten White. I think that was her name, um, and I really enjoyed it. It was fun, but I'm kind of seeing this trope in these kind of horrific like where there's all this gore that you have characters that are fodder, um, especially in Hyde. I think we had 14 characters, and so they were given kind of unique traits so you could identify them as they get murdered by the monster in Hyde. In Angel Down, I could see how someone could see that same trope because we have five characters. You have the main character Bagger, who's the narrator, who is the general calls him Private Gravedigger. He's kind of a swindler. He's a preacher's kid who was basically thrown into World War One. He doesn't want to be at the front line. He does not want to. Um, he doesn't want to die. So he kind of makes bets, plays cards, loads dice. He's a con man, and he's able to get people to trade their frontline shifts for their like latrine duty or their grave digging duty. So he's a coward. He doesn't want to die. We have Arno, who is a kid who lied to his recruiter. He's like 14. He lied to his recruiter, and now he's in France in the trenches. Um, you have Goodspeed, who they call him Vincent the Vulture Goodspeed, who he'll go over the trench wall, and he kind of stops, and then he goes and he takes stuff off of the dead. They could be allies, they could be German. He takes stuff off the dead and uses that to enrich himself. Um, you have, holy cow, I can't remember his name. Kind of this big oafish dude. They call him the Lummox. Um, he's this really gross idiot kind of guy, but he's strong as an ox. But he's just kind of stupid. And then the last one would be Vec, who is for all intents and purposes, the only actual soldier among them. But he was taken from a African American uh, fighting squad and brought in because they needed a flamethrower unit. So he's expendable just by his race. He's also shell shocked, which would be the other ding against him. But you have these kind of five dispensable heroes that they send out to find this shrieker, which they find is actually an angel caught up in barbed wire. Um, so you have these five that have very distinct characteristics, um, and I could see how someone would think that these are here, so you remember who's getting uh, mowed down, sawed in half, set aflame. Trying to be very vague on those because they're the deaths of some of the characters are pretty surprising. I really like this book. It has one gimmick that I think could turn a lot of people off. It's written as one sentence, but there's just a lot of creative liberties taken to make it all into one sentence. Um, it makes sense as you read the book. Um, it feels very it's a literary choice. It's written that way um, to lend into the themes of the book. This book is about I'll put my teacher thoughts in here. This book is about what does it take to uh, for good men to stop bad things from happening, and what does it mean to be a good man? Is a soldier a good man? Who is actually the um, who's actually on the side of good and righteousness when it comes to this basically hell on earth? Um, and I really thought it was cool the way Krauss discusses this through this very hellish hell is a good way to describe everything that goes on in this novel. Um, so he has another novel, Wellfall, which I've already got on kind of Kindle. I think that's going to be in my reading list for next month. Now, I do have one other book that I've been listening to on audiobook, but I haven't finished it yet. It is The Will of the Many. So we'll talk about that next month, but that's been the other book that I've been enjoying this month. So anyway, that's what I read in June. Looking forward to reading some more in July before school starts back up in August. Let me know. Have you read any of these books? Uh, did you read anything cool in June? Give me a like. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. That would be awesome. Anyways, this has been a Journal and Static. You've been you, I've been me, and you have a great day.